My name is Meg Tuohey. Together we'll gather wisdom from a wide range of voices, thought leaders and seekers just like you. Through individual stories, we'll explore multiple categories of wisdom and uncover how the stripes of our experiences, both joyful and challenging and all that lies in between, intertwine to create a rich tapestry of life. So whether you're looking for inspiration, guidance, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. This is Wisdom Stripes. Welcome to the Wisdom Stripes podcast, where we explore the profound journeys of individuals who've emerged from life's challenges with hard-earned wisdom and resilience. I'm your host, Meg Tuohey, and I'm thrilled to share that this podcast is brought to you by the transformative program, The Wisdom Lab. If you're feeling stuck in painful patterns, desperately seeking a breakthrough, and yearning for the tools to shatter emotional barriers and reclaim your power, the Wisdom Lab is your answer. In just 4 hours, you'll discover how to tap into your inner wisdom, turn confusion into clarity, and unlock the profound personal growth you've been craving. No more band-aid solutions or surface-level advice. This is about deep, lasting transformation from the inside out. Ready to embark on this life-changing journey? Head to the show notes for an exclusive link to learn more. Let's unleash your wisdom together. Today on Wisdom Stripes, we have the pleasure of welcoming Annelies Richmond, a dynamic individual whose life and work reflect a profound commitment to personal transformation and empowering others. Through her journey, Annelies has cultivated resilience and inner strength, dedicated to helping others unlock their potential and find their unique paths. Her story bridges personal and professional breakthroughs, reminding us that transformation is possible for all of us. Join us as we delve into her experiences, insights, and the wisdom she's gained along the way. Annelies, welcome to Wisdom Stripes, where we are your no-nonsense, fierce fairy godmothers, turning pain and confusion into clarity and confidence. It's so lovely to have you on the podcast.
It's lovely to be with you, Meg. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for flying in. I know that you just got in to Miami, and so I'm very grateful that you came in to be with us.
Grateful to be with you.
Wonderful. Now, we start every single podcast with the same question. What wisdom would you like a listener to come away with today?
I would like the wisdom for the listener to come away with is a resilience, a sense of empowerment, that they can manage their own mind, that they can manage their emotions, and even use their emotional energy to fuel their life instead of be a victim of it. And they can live their best life when they learn how to go inwards and manage their mind.
Okay, so that sounds beautiful. Tell me about the modalities that you use to teach or to frame those ideas. What kinds of ways do you allow others to understand on a deeper level how to do that or have that experience?
I teach breathwork and meditation through the Art of Living Foundation, and I teach a particular type of meditation called Sudarshan Kriya. And that's the Sanskrit name. So the research name is SKY, Sky Breath Meditation, stands for Sudarshan Kriya, but it's a particular way of using rhythms in the breath, natural rhythms in the breath to kind of govern our internal systems, to slow the mind down, to calm the whole stress response system, and also to bring more energy in the system if we're tired. So it basically at the end puts you into this perfect, easy state of meditation. So that's the main technique that I teach. I've been teaching it for 24 years. I learned it as a professional ballerina, and it really changed my whole career. I was like, what is this technique? That's the main thing that I teach, and also other kinds of breath work and meditation, and leadership skills and emotional intelligence training I also use in the courses I teach.
So I love all of those things, and I promise we're going to talk about all of those things. but may we please start with your professional ballerina experience. Okay. Can you take us to that time in your life and describe it for us?
Yes. I had been a ballerina for about 7 or 8 years, and then I got really badly injured, as most dancers do. And then I danced on the injury for a ridiculous amount of time. So suddenly I couldn't walk anymore. So I went through a pretty depressive downtime. I couldn't figure out what else to do with my life. And I think that started to get me into spirituality. I started to read different books and try to figure out what else can I do with my life. But I just kept wandering into dance departments when I went back to school. So for me, I started to realize there was a healing capacity from within us. And I thought, well, I don't really believe the doctors. I think I can heal from this, because I realized there's kind of an inner power that we all possess through our own life force energy. And for me, that was like a spiritual connection. So I did eventually heal from that injury and got a job in the Metropolitan Opera in New York City. And when I moved there, I kept running into the same guy in my building. And I was studying yoga, and I was reading this book called Autobiography of a Yogi, which is very spiritual. And I started feeling like I need a teacher. I need a teacher that can teach me how to live all these yogic principles. It's not just something you read in a book. So that guy I kept running into told me I need to go to this Art of Living class. And I thought, why does he keep stopping me 8 times in the hallway to tell me to go to this course? There must be something about it. So I went to it. And I basically learned the much more profound part of yoga that I was looking for, which was the breathing techniques and the meditative part. And I learned that technique I mentioned to you, Sudarshan Kriya. And I didn't realize that yoga could go that deep. I thought it was postures and then relaxation. But when I learned that technique, I felt like I was in an otherworldly plane of existence. I felt like I floated away. And after a couple of days, all my body pain disappeared that I carried around as a dancer. And after a couple of weeks of practicing that, I just lost all my stage anxiety. And I had terrible stage anxiety. And when I was at the Met, there's 5,000 people. I would psych myself out. I would be so nervous. And I started practicing that. I didn't know it was going to impact my career. I just was really interested in the meditative aspects. But when I started practicing that, I just remember walking on stage one night and being like, oh, I'm not even nervous. This is so nice. And the performance was just nice and enjoyable and lovely, and that just changed my whole career. So that made me feel like, oh, I really should teach this to others, not just keep it to myself. And slowly started becoming an instructor of that as well, so that I could share what I had benefited from.
So being in the studio with you, I can't help but notice a real fluidity in the way that you even move your arms. It does look like, now that I know you were a ballerina, which I didn't know, I can see that in you. What's it like to have a body that moves so gracefully?
That's a good question. I don't know. I feel like life is fluid and our bodies should reflect that. Maybe it would be hard for me to understand not being fluid. Although I do work with people in my classes that look really stiff and can't move easily. But what I notice after a few days, Meg, is once they do breathing techniques and meditation, once their mind relaxes, their body becomes fluid and supple, and their movements look different. So I actually think that kind of fluidity and grace in the body, it starts from the mind.
That is a really interesting, and it was a circuitous answer, but actually a really important journey of an answer. Because where we got to is the relationship really between body and mind, and maybe emotions and maybe spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it sounds like one of your specialty expertise areas is that relationship between body, mind, and spirit. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Yeah. And so if you were to think about the one thing that you wish all people understood about the relationship between body, mind, and spirit, what would that be?
I feel I probably only learned this by experiencing it inwardly. One thing that I learned from my dear teacher, who's Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, is that we're not just this body layer. We are connected to everything in this existence, and it's only the body that makes us feel separate. So on one small level, like a minute percentage of us is separate, but the mind is intimately connected with everyone else's minds. That's why you've been at a time when you thought of someone and they called you, or you called someone and they said, I was just thinking of you. Like, it shows that our minds are connected. And deeper than that, deeper than the mind layer, is our intellect and our memory and our ego, and then the layer of being or consciousness. And on a consciousness level, we're all the same. We're all one. And it's nice to hear that or say that, but I feel like I can only own that because I've experienced it through meditation. And then the more you experience it in meditation, you start to experience it more with your eyes open when you're living. So maybe that's the main thing I would want people to remember. It's not even to know, because it's something we knew as a little child, as a tiny baby, we knew we're connected. But somehow stress covers that up. So I think that people can remember I'm connected to everyone on this planet through the level of spirit and consciousness, and even through the mind level, the thought level, we're connected to everyone and everything.
Okay, I would like to unpack this. For those of the audience that are listening, they're following and they understand conceptually what you're talking about, but haven't experienced it. Would you be able to describe what it might look like, feel like, sound like, to belong to essentially what you're describing as the fabric of the universe, where all is one and one is all? What is that experience like when you access it through meditation?
Well, in meditation, one of the reasons I feel it's so powerful is you close the physical senses. So our mind is caught up in processing visually the environment. We're processing a million things right now through our vision, and then through hearing, there's like a sound of a fan or whatever is the background noise. We're processing taste and touch, the feeling of the clothes. All those senses are busy processing, and the mind is receiving all that information. So at least when we close our eyes, which I feel is very important for meditation, because that shuts the vision sense. When we start to close all the senses, we turn all that power of the mind inwards, and we start to realize that there's an entire world inside, and there's a lot of energy inside. It's not just the energy outside of us. There's the same kind of energy inside of us. And when we can use that same mental power to notice what's going on inside, we discover there's a lot more dimensions within us than just the world of talking and interacting and eating and sleeping. There's a lot more that is within us, which is the spirit level, the emotion level. So I think that in meditation, when all these things from the outer world kind of dissolve, we start to realize that we're made up of energy, and we start to realize the thoughts and the mind are just consciousness, are just energy. And it's very hard to describe the state of meditation, actually, but when we start to feel, I'm energy, I'm consciousness, I'm intimately connected to everything. You can have that also as a feeling. It doesn't have to only be a thought. And in deeper states of meditation, it comes as a feeling. And that feeling can be very blissful or joyful. But I do feel like it's almost trying to describe like what vanilla ice cream tastes like to someone who's never tasted it. So it's something that all of us have to experience.
And okay, let's go there. You've led us so beautifully there. How does one begin the pathway to experiencing this phenomena?
Well, I think the first bridge to experience a meditative state of mind or good meditation is breathing techniques, breath work, because it's quite natural to have a crazy, busy mind. Mm-hmm. All of us, our minds are racing all the time, and right? And the mind is reacting to the environment, and the mind is worrying about the past and is racing to the future, right? And that's quite natural. And most people are upset with themselves that that's happening. Like they should be better, but it's not the case. That's what the mind does. So I think that breathing techniques are essential. I mean, I teach in a lot of universities through the Art of Living, and I tell students that if I were to tell you just close your eyes, that's such a torture. I would never do that. Like, just close your eyes and meditate. That's why people say I can't meditate, because just closing your eyes, you just realize the busyness that's going on inside. But when we utilize breathing techniques that are effective, or for me, I feel like they should be tried and tested, which is why I love the yoga tradition, that calms the mind and the physiology naturally. You know, if we use the certain rhythms in the breath, or we use patterns in the breath, or even certain techniques, it can cool the mind down, it can make the thoughts slow down, it can make our system go into parasympathetic mode, which is rest and digest, and then the mind actually follows the nervous system instead of us trying to struggle or fight with the mind. So breathing techniques, I feel, are absolutely essential. I would never want to tell someone just sit and meditate without them getting to do the right kind of breathing techniques to calm the whole system.
Now, my understanding of breath work is vastly limited when sitting with you, who is an expert in this space. My understanding is there are different ways that you can induce a meditative state depending on the outcome that you're looking to create, or perhaps how you're looking to soothe the body. Is that correct?
So, I mean, the type of breathing techniques I teach in Sanskrit, which is the language of yoga, they're called pranayama. Prana means the subtle life force energy, and yama means to direct or house or control. So there's about 112 types of pranayama. And some are very energizing and wake up the system and kind of stoke the life force energy in us. And we feel more alert and we feel a little more powerful because of the energy. And some are very calming. Some even cool the system down, like if there's a lot of heat in the body. And some are very meditative. So I would say there's many different types. And pranayamas are usually used to make the mind more quiet and to raise the energy in the system so that we don't fall asleep in meditation. Either the mind's too busy or the system's too tired and we fall asleep. So pranayamas are used to balance that, to raise the energy and calm the mind. My favorite breathing technique, it's a breathing meditation, is the one I mentioned, Sudarshan Kriya, or sky breath meditation. And that's a meditative breathwork practice that is a little deeper than pranayama. And that Sudarshan Kriya practice allows the system to go from a really heightened, like stressed out state to release all the stress on a cellular level. And it calms the system so that we naturally go into a state of meditation.
Sounds really beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about the wisdom of breath work and yogi-related practices. What is the benefit of practicing in these spaces? What is the gift that lies within the daily practice or the weekly practice of allowing this space and time?
Well, maybe one of the most profound things that I've learned from my own teacher, who's a great yogi, Gurudev, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, is that you have to condition your own mind in the same way you condition the body. Like, you can't just go to the gym once and expect to have this wonderful physique and great muscles. But sometimes people expect to meditate or breathe once and then everything should be cleared or fixed. So the mind also needs, I don't know if you would call it conditioning, but training. Just like you would train a muscle and make it really strong, you can train the mind to slowly become more and more present throughout the day and to hold that state of being more present. And you can train the mind to be more calm even amidst stressful situations. And that's the gift of practicing every day. So if you practice just once a week, you'll get some benefit, but you can't expect yourself to stay completely calm in a super stressful situation. But if you practice daily, I mean, I find these practices are so powerful if you practice daily you will remain calm and even happy amidst a little bit of an intense situation.
That sounds like a really good tool for your toolkit, but it's not just a tool, it's actually a way of life. It's a lifestyle is what I'm hearing, that sort of daily discipline that you wind or weave in.
Yes.
Do you find that you like to do it as a practice in the morning, at night? Does it bother you when you have that experience or you cultivate that space for yourself?
I practice daily, first thing in the morning, because it becomes like brushing your teeth. Like you don't want to get up and not brush your teeth. You really want to have that nice, clean, clear state of mind in the morning, and also you want to enjoy it all day.
Yes.
So I practice in the morning. I also practice a second time during the day, which most meditative traditions recommend twice a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would love it if you could take us through your morning ritual. So you are in your cozy bed and you're just stirring. Tell us what time it is and then walk us through what happens until your ritual or your daily practice has been completed.
Wow. Depends what country and I'm in, what time zone, and who I'm with. But I take a shower first, and then I get on my yoga mat. I do however much yoga I have time for that day, which can range between 20 minutes and an hour. And always saving the most important amount of time for my breathing, my sky breath meditation, and my longer meditation at the end. So I take about an hour of practice of breath work, which is pranayama, and then sky breath meditation, which is a more subtle form of breath work, and then I meditate for almost an hour every morning in addition to yoga. So for me, it goes from the more gross or more physical to the more subtle. You start with the asanas, the postures. You start with the more intense ones. You get to the more calming ones where you're laying down on the back or stomach. And then you go into the pranayamas, which are soothing the system, energizing the system. And then you go into more meditative breath work, which for me is Sudarshan Kriya. And then you're in that wonderful state of meditation that you usually just don't want to open your eyes because you'd like to stay there for longer. But for me, that's at least an hour of practice.
And whilst you're in that most wonderful state of meditation that you don't want to leave, could you describe for us what that looks like, feels like, sounds like, what's happening in that suspended place between your body and the universe?
As a meditation teacher, I'm not supposed to talk about the state I get into because then people try to make it an achievement. But I would say it's like dissolving into the universe, in a way becoming one of the most interesting experiences I hear my students share is I say, okay, how was it at the end of their first few practices? And they say, oh, I felt like nothing was happening, but in such a nice way. So in a way, it's like becoming nobody, becoming nothing, and just being in that state of being dissolved, which feels at the same time so peaceful, but also blissful. But I'm wondering, maybe I should take us through a breathing technique. Would you like that?
I think we could do that. What we need to do, though, is make it overt. But this is your life's work, so you are a teacher. So you can teach people as we're doing it.
Yeah.
So we're going to, is that what you're thinking?
You want to do that?
I do want to do that.
It seems like we should.
Do I want to do that? All right, friend. Do I want to do that?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So let's make sure so anyone who's listening at home, do not be driving while we do this. You need to pause us.
Yes.
Don't come with us if you're operating heavy machinery or you need to focus. Save us and come back to us later when it's safe to do so, because we're going to practice, aren't we?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, yes. So to do this practice, one should be sitting, not driving a car, or not doing a million other things. You won't feel the impact as much. So this is to me, it's like the first breathing technique everyone should learn. It's very powerful. In Sanskrit, it's called Ujjayi breath. Ujjayi. Many people who have a yoga teacher who actually teaches breathwork might have learned this. And in English, we can call it victory breath. Jai means victory in Sanskrit. So victory over what takes our mind out of the present moment or what disturbs the mind. Okay, so in this breath, it sounds a little bit like snoring. Okay, and there'll be a sound, and people can also often pick it up through the sound. Okay? And it's something that we do at the edge of sleep at night. All of us actually do this. We already intuitively know how to do it. We breathe like this. If you have children and you go to check that they're sleeping, you'll hear this a little bit. And then most of us start doing the sound a lot louder when we're asleep, which is okay, snoring. So this technique is almost like snoring, but we'll keep the mouth closed. So I'll just demonstrate it. It sounds like this. Catching it? Okay.
Yeah. So what I saw, for those who are listening and not watching, is you had a relaxed face. Your mouth was smiling but shut. And you had air going in your nose and out through your nose.
Yes.
Yeah?
Right.
Okay. Is there anything else that was missing from that for those who are learning at home and listening, not watching?
No, that's good.
Okay.
Actually, yeah. So what we're doing is we're slightly constricting the muscles in the back of the throat, very slightly, so that the air passes more slowly, and it makes that kind of ocean sound. So we can do it with the mouth open first. So even those who are listening, you can do this. So we'll do, you know, when you're very thirsty and you're dying of thirst and it's so hot out and you get that nice cold glass of water and you drink it down and then you make the sound?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can make the sound. And then feel where it's coming from the back of the throat.
Yeah.
And one more time. Now make it with the mouth closed.
Oh, that's trickier.
Okay, one more time with the mouth open. Same sound with the mouth closed. And on the way in and out. And with the eyes closed on the way in and out. And continue again, in and out. Good. In and out. Relax the body. Breathe in and out. Continue a few more times. With the sound in the throat. See if you can make the breath longer and slower. With the sound in the throat. And one more time. And with the eyes closed, let the breath relax and return to normal. And notice your mind and body. And slowly and gradually, when you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
So I noticed an immediate shift in energy in my body. It became not fizzy because that's too hard, the bubbles, but it was certainly more alive. And I also felt like I had an experience of an external, more like it, because my eyes were shut, I guess. I started pushing my senses out and I felt the energy of where we were more, as well as my own internal space.
Amazing.
Yes?
Yes, that's
Okay.
it.
That's it.
That's huge.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the experience, you could say. I mean, in yoga, it's called prana. Prana is the life force energy. So what you described is the experience of like the life force energy inside, which does get raised through breathing techniques. And then you can experience, prana is all around us. It's in the air, it's everywhere. So you can experience that on the outside too. But very calming, right? Do you know that?
Very calming, but I found it also a little energizing. Was it one of the energizing breath works?
Why I love this one is the most balancing, because like it raises the energy and calms the system. It does both. If there's restlessness, or people say I have ADHD, I can't pay attention, it calms that whole phenomenon, but then it also raises the energy in a very subtle way. Yeah.
So it's a balancer. So perhaps if you didn't have a daily practice, or because I can hear some of my beautiful people listening saying, yeah, but Meg, yeah, but Annelies, I don't have an hour in the mornings. I don't have half an hour in the mornings.
Right.
So if there's not the space for that to be available to people, it does feel like that could be done privately, quietly, in a restroom, at your desk, or in the car before you transition to your next activity.
Yes.
Like a way to manage your energy flow across the day. Would that be useful for that experience?
Yes. If there's anyone to start with, it's this. And maybe me telling my home practice is scary because I've been meditating for 25 years. That's only how I got to such a long practice. But doing this for 2 or 3 minutes in the morning, first thing, is so valuable. That's the beginning of a meditative practice.
So we could start with a smaller amount of time. It wouldn't, So let's start with somebody who might think, I'm ready to bring this into my life. What's some easy foundational pieces that just about anybody could start and grow into the practice that a masterful person such as yourself lives in? Where can more beginner level type people start?
Right. Well, I think the intention and the wanting to start is huge. You should applaud yourself if you have that.
Yay! We'll applaud them. Yay!
I mean, just that you want to, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
So this technique that we just did, Ujjayi or victory breath, you can do it for 2 or 3 minutes in the morning, and it's so powerful. Up to 5 minutes, even up to 10 if you wanted to extend. So this, I would say, is luckily this is the one we learned. That's the one to start with. You can do it in the evening if you're sleepy, but it's early evening. You have to do the rest of your evening. You could do it a few times, and I think starting with a breathing technique like that, but I would say, I would recommend then you want to learn more, dive into an Art of Living course, because there's nothing like taking a class. And to me, the class should be with a live teacher. It should not be just something you click on YouTube or whatever. Like when you're going to go into deeper breath work and meditative practice, you want to be with a live teacher who has meditated.
So how do we know who to choose in this day and age of people who can say what they are, perhaps with less regulation? How do you tell who the true leaders are, and particularly if they don't have access to someone like you, right, and they're living in their own community? What sorts of credentials might they look for? How would they know that they're in safe hands?
That's a really good question. I would say, finding a teacher who walks the talk and is the real deal is important. That was important in my journey. I feel like when I first met my teacher, Gurudev, Sri Ravi Shankar, I could tell by his presence. His presence is amazing. It's joyful. It's peaceful. You feel immediately peaceful and happy around him. And I was like, this is the real teacher. Yeah, I feel it. So I feel like you know that inwardly. It's not necessarily, to me, an intellectual thing. You feel it in your heart. Like, this is a real teacher, and you'll feel it in their presence. At the same time, they should be someone, Gurudev is a meditation master. You can learn from those kind of people online. People like Gurudev are available online, or they teach live online. But I would say learning live from a real teacher who teaches a proper meditation tradition that's been around for a long time and has evidence behind it. We want it to be evidence-based. It should have some research. I would say that research to satisfy the mind, that it's a real technique, but then the presence of the teacher and the fact that they practice every day is very important.
Well, I could not agree more with all of those points. Not that I knew that's what you were going to say, but when we're looking for mentors or leaders or teachers, they need to have those qualities. They need to be very well versed in evidence-based practice. They need to walk the talk and be embodied. And also when you meet them and you're in their energy, whether it's listening, watching, or in person, you can feel their experience.
Yes.
Yes, that feels really important when selecting maybe any kind of mentor.
I agree. I agree.
We agree together. Okay, now I'm very lucky to have you in the studio. I'm well aware of that because you have just come to Miami, where we are, via India and Norway. What took you to India and Norway?
I went to India to, again, meet my teacher, Gurudev, and study with him. So I mean, I've been teaching for the Art of Living for this is my 24th year, but he's my teacher. So I go for updates, trainings. So I did an extra training there, and I did a meditative silence course, which is I do regularly. I take silent retreats twice a year through Art of Living.
You take them for yourself or
I
you
do.
give them for others?
I do both. So I teach them once a month. It's probably my favorite course to teach, even though the first time I took it, my family placed bets. Oh, you are going to keep silence? Let's see. But my family is a talkative family. But so I teach them regularly, but I take them for myself for upkeep to take my practice deeper. And also in normal life, you gather so much stuff in your mind, and like the practice of silence and meditating for a few days, it helps release all those impressions and your system is again clean and free. So I did a silent retreat in India, and then I got to study some personally with Gurudev, which is probably my favorite thing to do. I learned a new practice, technique. And then from there, I went to Norway to teach we have our university program called Sky Campus Happiness, and it was the very first university in Norway that requested it. So I had met the dean at University of Oslo randomly when I was on vacation. He happened to find our program online. I was requesting randomly.
Randomly?
Yeah,
we're doing air quotes
exactly.
at each other.
Well, I went there with my husband. My husband said, oh, if you want to do a university meeting while you're here, you can. And at the same time, the dean found our program online and started requesting. So I met him. So he said, please, I want this program for my students because it's not only meditation and breath work. I need them to feel connected, like to each other and come out of their loneliness. And he noticed that our program had not just meditation, but like social connection and emotional intelligence. So I told him I'll come back and I'll train a few teachers here to lead it at your university. And that's what I did. I got to go teach a beautiful group of 50 students. They're just amazing. Nothing inspires me more than meeting conscious young leaders like that who are like, a lot of them are like, I have social anxiety, but I need to be here, and they sat in that room and they learned sky breath meditation. They learned it as a home practice. They over 3 days, a lot of them transformed. I had some Ukrainian refugees there who, one of them was crying at the beginning because I think she was so overwhelmed being in the group, but on the last day, she was like, she told me, I realize now that I'm happy, my life should be about serving others.
Oh.
So that's what I was there doing in University of Oslo.
So let's talk about the current epidemic of disconnection and loneliness and how the power of yoga, and breath work can return you back to belonging to a community. Can you make that bridge for us? How does that work?
It's crazy because many countries now, Norway was one, and I think the U.S., I know Great Britain made a loneliness ministry several years ago in their government. But I think most countries now, the stats are 50% of people feel lonely, which is really amazing. When we have so many people on the planet, it feels like an epidemic. So it feels weird that by closing your eyes and disconnecting from others, you would feel more connected. But the research shows that, number one. We were part of a study at Yale University in 2019, and we did our Sky Campus Happiness Program with 200 students, and one of the main significant benefits at the end, there were 6 significant benefits, and one of the main ones was they felt more socially connected at the end, which was amazing. So there's a lot of research that shows breathwork and meditative practice can make one feel more connected, but I feel that happens because as a little tiny child, we feel connected, right? You've seen a baby in the grocery store and they're just like this, yeah.
Arms out, yeah. They're joyful. They make eye contact.
Right?
They say hi.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, they engage with you. No barriers.
Yeah, they don't see any difference. They're like, so I think that as we grow up, of course, more ego develops, which is that sense of feeling separate, but stress comes up. And I feel like stress is like blinders, like the horses that have the blinders.
Blinkers.
Yeah. So the more stress, the less connected you feel.
Mm-hmm.
The more stress, you don't even notice others.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're seeing that in today's society. People are highly stressed. The anxiety level's high, and you kind of don't have the mental capacity to notice others or even think, what can I do for others? And at the same time, only focusing on only me, and nothing, what can I do for others, that also leads to a more depressed mental state.
Right, because the balance is lost between giving and receiving, in-breath and out-breath.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know a little bit.
Yes.
Not nowhere near what you know, but I do understand the balance that's required in the human experience of in-breath and out-breath, which matches my ability to receive and tolerate the vulnerability of that, and to give and tolerate the servitude of that.
Yes.
Yeah, or enjoy the servitude of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I find through experience, which is, it's so odd, like what I described, that Ukrainian girl, after, she wouldn't actually walk in the room the first day. She was so overwhelmed. She didn't want to be around people. She saw 50 people sitting and eating, and she started crying. We said, no, you just stay, for a few minutes. But I've seen after 3 days, when people's stress is released, they feel connected all of a sudden. But they're really just going back to that original state of connection, which the stress kind of covered up for them. Mm-hmm. And the too much mental, anxiety and thinking, it kind of blocks your sense of connection.
Right.
I think if we train people with, good breathwork and meditation, and it gets integrated with them being with people, that sense of connection comes back.
It does.
And I think there's nothing like removing people's stress to raise the sense of connection. That's the main thing we have to do.
Okay. So I have 2 questions for you. One is, we had someone in season 1, episode 1 of our podcast, Lauren Fox, who is a breathwork teacher, who taught a lot, or has taught thousands of students now, or taken them through the experience of breathwork for trauma. And that is, the way she describes it is akin to what you're describing, and also I think is used in a different way from what we've heard from you today.
Right.
I wonder if you might be able to share with us any insights you have about those modalities and how it might belong also to the work and the knowledge that you hold, being in the space and education system you have for being a yogi. Yeah?
Yes.
Are you a yogi?
Yeah, yogi. Or I think you say yogini for women, but I like yogi.
Yogi it is, my friend. Yeah, could you talk to us about the difference, please?
Yeah, like for breathwork for trauma.
Yeah,
right?
Somatic release is a very commonly discussed conversation, particularly on the internets at the moment, about body work and somatic work, and releasing trauma through breath is really one of the new, more popular topics of conversation. Yeah. And there is, there's wonderful evidence-based work around that. But I wonder if you might be able to speak more eloquently to that for us.
Sure. Yeah. I think, yes. Breath work if it's taught in the proper way, it will release trauma and stress and emotions. And I think that's one of the reasons, to me, it has to be done in the presence of a live teacher, because you don't know what will come out. And someone having that experience, it might feel scary to them. But if they're in a safe space with an instructor and they know the instructor knows what's going on, they can be smoothly taken out of that process of release and then feel lighter. But I feel like doing it on your own, it could feel pretty overwhelming. You know? But we do have programs where we teach very traumatized people. The main one that I've experienced is when we teach war veterans. So we have a veterans program called Project Welcome Home Troops, and it's actually it's the same program that I teach in universities, which is the Art of Living program, or Sky Campus Happiness. But Project Welcome Home Troops is free to all veterans in the United States, and it's so powerful seeing them go through it. They take a few more days than most people. Most of our programs are 3 days. They do their program for 6 days. And they do learn Sudarshan Kriya, which is a really powerful technique that releases a lot of emotions and a lot of old memories that might be kind of held there. For them, they have to really have the right kind of teachers and mentors in the room, and they're warned that things will come up. But what I've seen, maybe the most heartwarming things I've seen with veterans is one veteran said he would always see this one small girl in his dreams every night, who I think, and they're on their envoys across certain countries, sometimes they're forced to kill someone, and this veteran was seeing this one young girl over and over and over. Only after going through that many days of breath work and learning Sudarshan Kriya, he said the first night he slept without seeing her. So somehow that trauma in his memory got released. So those kind of things, when you hear it, that's just so powerful that can be released from the system in a good way, in a safe way.
So we know our veterans from all countries, there is very high rates of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. How does breath work link to PTSD? Is there evidence around lowering rates? What is the relationship between the two?
Yes. We all know that, right? And unfortunately, soldiers are there to serve their country with such a service ethic, but when they come back with PTSD, just sitting at a stoplight can feel traumatic, or, or they're not able to sleep at night. One of the studies I'm most familiar with was out of University of Wisconsin on veterans. And that study is the most mind-blowing to me, maybe, for breathwork of the ones I've seen. And that is there were returning soldiers from Iraq and Afghanistan. They all had high PTSD. And they were taken through a 6-day breathwork program through Project Welcome Home Troops. They learned Sudarshan Kriya. They did many doses of it, But after 6 days, they came out of the normal PTSD levels. Like, they didn't qualify as having PTSD anymore.
So we did pre- and post-test assessments and screening. And so pre-test showed PTSD existed, and post-test showed we were back to normal levels.
Yeah, or maybe there was many, but they didn't qualify as having PTSD
so no
anymore.
longer could be diagnosed using the criteria from the DSM-5, which is the statistician's manual.
Yes.
That we use to assess PTSD.
Yes. And then the most astounding thing in that study is they did follow them 1 month and then 1 year. But they didn't have follow-up classes, so they weren't told you have to practice. No. The results stayed after one month.
So we're now talking longitudinal research.
Yeah.
So we've got 1 month post and it stayed.
They didn't go back into PTSD
They
levels.
still were sitting in the normal bell curve of not PTSD symptoms that would result in a diagnosis.
Yes.
And then what happened after a year?
This is the craziest one to me, because when I teach classes, I'm like, you need to practice. Please do practice, or as much as you can practice. They weren't told to practice or said you have to practice a certain amount, but after 1 year, the results stayed. They did not qualify for PTSD still after a year. Some of them might have practiced, some of them may not have practiced at all, but it suggests there's some kind of permanent shift in the system.
A year is a long time. It suggests there's a permanent shift in the system.
Yeah.
What a joy.
Yeah, that's amazing. Right?
Now, I have one last big topic for us to cover before we wrap up. And I don't know this for sure, but I do feel like I can ask you this question and you're going to have an answer, which other people might find helpful. And it is in a direction we haven't been today, but I've been holding it as something I've wanted to ask you for the duration of this interview. It is around your relationship with the fabric of the universe and the ability for you to dissolve and then come back into the human form, and to do that every day. So it seems to me that you would likely have a different tone of relationship with death than perhaps other people might. And I'm wondering what, or if you would mind describing your thoughts around death and what it might mean or feel like, or what might happen given your ability to go between the two worlds on a daily basis.
Can I tell you a story?
Sure can.
So it's interesting you asked me this question, because I feel like it's kind of a theme in my spiritual growth or learning through my life. So one of the first times I ever met Gurudev, my teacher, everybody was asking him questions, and I thought, why would you want to ask someone like this questions? It's so nice to be in his presence. Like, silence is better. But finally, I decided I'm going to ask him about something I'm a little worried about. Maybe it'll help me let it go, or some wisdom will come. And when I asked him the thing I was worried about, and he always looked so joyful, but suddenly he said, anyway, you're going to die.
Oh, his face really changed. For those who can't see, Anneliese's joyful face, which she holds 99.9% of the time, dropped just then, didn't it? Yeah. It dropped into a serious moment, yeah? That's what he looked like to you.
Yeah, he just said, anyway, you're going to die. And I said, like, it just arrested my mind completely. I'd never had anyone tell me that. But it was just Gurudev's style. It was the most brilliant answer ever, because I chewed on that for years. Oh, anyway, I'm going to die. Oh, of course. Like, if I have the acknowledgement of my own death, then every tiny little thing that usually it's small worries we go round and round. We don't go round and round with, how am I going to save the environment? We go round and round with this person said this and that person said that. How am I going to get the next best job or whatever, like this. And that is actually one of the main tenets of yogic wisdom. If you remember that your life is temporary and you're going to die one day, then all the extra chatter and the stuff that doesn't really matter just dissolves, and you can be present. You can live fully and be present. And so that answer he gave me was the biggest gift. Like, anyway, you're going to die. And then immediately he smiled again. So several times I've had answers from that like him, answers like that from him, reminding you're just going to exit this planet suddenly. One day you're just going to exit. And he says this funny thing, this planet is a transit lounge. You'll be here and be gone, and you won't have time to pack your bags. So to me, like, chewing on that makes you live more fully. If you keep remembering, oh yeah, I'm going to die one day, and I don't know when. And other people that I'm around, they're going to die one day. That makes you appreciate the people around you so much more, because we get annoyed when we're taking them for granted, right? So to me, that's one of the best pieces of wisdom to keep in the back of your mind, is that one day you'll just vanish, and so will everyone else. So take advantage of this amazing game that we're all playing, or this play called life, and be here fully now.
What a beautiful answer. Okay, last question, and it's a nice easy one. No more big ones coming your way, unless of course you want to give me a big answer, which is completely up to you. So it's the end of our session, and we are now really acclimated together, and we're warm and we know each other, and so do the listeners. And so I want us to imagine we're together and we're comfortable and cozy. It's the end of the day. There's chairs for everybody and everybody's got exactly what they need, and there's a nice fire pit there too. And it's this last opportunity for us in our most relaxed state to be together, to belong together. What's the last thing you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Is this the one where I should look into the camera? I would say you matter on this planet. You're important. You're important to the fabric of existence. And you're important to others. Your presence is important. Your intentionality is important. Your thoughts and feelings on this planet matter. They're actually making the planet move. And you can live your best life. But please go inwards to do so, because when we go inwards, you can manifest whatever you want, and you can influence the way this planet is more than you think. So I would say let us all in this lifetime learn to go inwards, and then also express that outwardly by living our best life and caring for others.
Yes, belonging and connection. Yeah, the antidote to loneliness. Yeah, belonging and connection to self. And then, of course, it's much easier to belong and connect with others.
Yes.
Now, one thing you don't know about me, Anneliese, is that I last week was in Kansas City with a group of my women who I call my wise women. Once a year we meet and we have a joyous few days, and we do a practice where we let go of something really painful and we wrap it in a lot of love and we give it back to the nature and the elements of the earth. Wow. And we then exchange something so that we have a touchstone to remember the wisdom that came from the hardship or the context, so that we don't have to go back into the really activated feelings, but we can have a touchstone for the way in which it helps shape us and grow us to the next version of ourselves. And we did that this year using a stone called tree jasper. And it's a tumble stone, and I have one here for you. Aww. As a memento of your wisdom.
This is beautiful.
And of a symbol of my gratitude for you being here and sharing your wisdom so openly with our community, and to honor all that you've learned and overcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's been so amazing being with you. I feel like I learned a lot just from your presence.
That's very generous.
Yeah, you have that immediate sense of belonging, which indicates to me a large amount of wisdom.
Thank you so much. From someone who has spent their life's work in that space, that means a great deal to me. Yes. So thank you for being on the podcast. It was a great joy and a great blessing.
Thank you, Meg. You're a blessing.
Yes. Thank you for listening to this episode of Wisdom Stripes. Follow me on @MegTuoheyOfficial and leave a comment and review. I'm looking forward to meeting you here next time on Wisdom Stripes.